Commissioner Sweet, Commissioner Kroll,
Here.
Commissioner Ryan. We'll see if she's online. Commissioner Forsberg.
Here.
And Commissioner Ryan is online, and
We'll just wait. We can just wait a moment and get her.
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, Commissioner Ryan. And then if I could get a motion to approve the agenda
I'll make a motion.
and a second.
Oh, I'll second it.
And if the clerk could call the roll.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll, Commissioner Ryan,
Yes,
and Commissioner Forsberg.
Yes.
4 yeas, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And then if I could get a motion to approve the minutes from August 6, 2025.
I'll make a motion, approve it.
Thank you. And a second.
Second that.
And if the clerk could call the roll, please.
Commissioner Sweet,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan,
yes,
and Commissioner Forsberg.
Yes.
Yeah, we have 4 yeas, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And then the next agenda item is public comments regarding items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments? Any public comments online?
I'm not seeing any, Madam Chair.
Okay. And then public hearing prior notice. I don't believe we have any items for that agenda item.
Correct.
And then consideration of site plans. Any considerations?
No, we have none.
Okay, thank you. And so we will go to Agenda H, Commission Business, and number 1 is the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Update Draft Review. And then should I turn that over to the city manager?
Sure, Madam Chair. I just want to
Thank you.
introduce, we have been working with Alaska Municipal League on this project through their planning services that they offer. And we actually have Britta, I'm going to butcher your last name here. I'm going to just take it,
Hamry, yes. Hi, Heidi. Hello,
here.
Council.
And so she can talk a little bit about the process to date and where we're at.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for having me this evening. My name is Britta Hamry. I work with the Alaska Municipal League, and we have been assisting Heidi and her staff, as well as my colleague, Danielle Meeker, in developing the Seldovia Comprehensive Plan update. So included in your packet for tonight's meeting is the current draft of the 2025 Comprehensive Plan update. I worked and met with many of you all this past July when Danielle and I came to Seldovia to facilitate an open town, I guess not town hall, but open public dialogue. And our hope is that the input that we got from members of the public in that meeting is reflected in this current version of the draft plan. When we initially started out on this process, we had anticipated having this plan available for review at this Planning Commission meeting and have allocated the months of September and October for review of this initial draft by both the Planning Commission and the City Council. Our estimated deadline is having a public comment period starting in November of this year, and then a final draft version of the plan for Council and Planning Commission review, hopefully right before the holidays, with an adoption of the final draft completed in January 2026. So we are on track right now with having this comprehensive plan update draft available for your review. This version includes some edits from Heidi, which we really appreciate. And Heidi, I might pass that over to you to walk us through some of your points that you've highlighted.
Thank you, Britta. So through the chair, I did include a memorandum on page 8 that just talks about some of the bigger changes and a little bit of the background. As Britta has let us know about the community meeting, we also had a story map and a public survey posted online in the month of May that was available. And we did post the questions and comments that we received from the community event on our Facebook page in order to facilitate more public discussion and comments. That was we had a few public members who really wanted that opportunity. We haven't received any yet, but it's still available if people want to comment that way. So with the 2025 comprehensive plan draft summary, I just wanted to discuss about some of the more significant changes. And of course, it does change and reflect a reformatting that hopefully makes it a little easier from having to um, flip pages back and forth throughout the plan to see what the recommendations are. So trying to have those actions included with the goals so that it's a little bit more in sync to see what what the goals and then the actions are. So changes also to note include that the plan has referred to the elements now. The draft refers to them as pillars. There is an inclusion of a 6th pillar, and that's housing, and that was recommended by the state of Alaska. The community and human resource pillar is now community and social resources. The environmental pillar is now resilience. And there's an update of the implementation framework with implementation principles and timeline based on short and mid and long-term projects. And I'm sorry, I could flip through, I guess Liz is showing it here on the screen, which is great. But if you want to go to, and there's some great information here at the beginning of the plan that I didn't necessarily go through. So stop me anywhere you want, but the overview, the timeline. And then we go to the implementation framework on page 4. Again, you can see, and that's a 15 of the whole packet, 4 of the plan. Under the implementation framework, you got the vision, the pillars, the strategic direction, and then there's overall implementation principles and an implementation timeline, which we didn't have before. So those are some good hopefully guiding principles. Please let us know if you guys have feedback on that or want anything to change or be added. And then there was a section shaped by the past that was quite a few pages long in the previous comprehensive plan. That's not in this current draft. It was thought that would be a really good appendices, so it'll be placed in there, and it will be a part of the new plan. But instead of being at the front and the forward, where we're focusing on the vision of where we are and moving forward, it will come behind the plan. The 2013 snapshot on the next page has been updated as community context. So there are some really great figures in here that come from the current census and the Bureau of Labor Bureau of Labor and Statistics. I did want to call out a few in here, and I apologize, I did not put the highlighted version in here that would really draw these out, but do highly recommend reading through. And some of those key statistics really are a modest population decline in recent decades. That combined, the greater Seldovia area has 434 people in 2020. The share of school-aged youth has diminished. About 15% of the area's residents are younger than 18 years of age. The community has a lower proportion of children and young adults compared to larger cities. We have a notably higher proportion of seniors age 64 or older, that's about 28%, which is more than the Alaskan average of 16%. Seldovia's population is small, aging, and relatively homogeneous, with a close-knit character shaped by both its Alaska Native roots and settler history. Seldovia's economy is modest in scale and highly seasonal, characterized by fishing, tourism, and a mix of self-employment and retirement income. The current year-round population supports only a small local labor force. Recent estimates indicate about 78 employed residents in 2023. The largest employment sectors for Seldovia residents are transportation and warehousing, and those really are like the ferry, commercial fishing, harbor, those types of positions. Public administration is next, and then construction. And that doesn't count for like all the small individual businesses owned and operated, which would have, just a few employees here and there for all those individual businesses. Many working age adults juggled multiple seasonal jobs or small businesses, and a significant number of residents are retirees whose pension or investment income supports the community year round. Income levels in Seldovia are moderate and roughly on par with or slightly above regional averages, but earnings are often seasonal. Key economic drivers include commercial fishing, tourism, hospitality, transportation services, again, ferry, harbor, air, local government and education, and construction projects. There's a high rate of self-employment and micro enterprise. Residents operate charter boats, art galleries, gardening, landscaping services, lodgings, and other small businesses that cater to tourists and locals. And Seldovia's economic development is constrained by high transportation costs, a limited year-round market, and infrastructure challenges. But the quality of life and natural beauty continue to attract retirees, telecommuters, and entrepreneurs who form the backbone of the town's economy. So please, I'll stop there. If you guys have any feedback on the context at this point, and of course, that was just a snapshot overview. So definitely wanting to hear your guys' feedback. If you have any at this point, and if you haven't read it yet, please go through it and provide comments here in the future. Yeah.
Looks like Commissioner Ryan has her hand raised.
Hi, yeah, it's Allison. I'm just really surprised that there's only 78 total employed people out of 434. But would that include self-employed people? Whereas does that inflate the number a little bit?
I'm not sure. And I did post a question back to AML about where the statistics came from, and they are going to have a reference page that we can come back and forth to and delve into a little bit further, because that one really caught my attention as well, and actually it made me want to do a hand count, but I don't have that time right now.
All right, thank you.
If I may speak to that, and I appreciate it, that point being raised. I think what I will want to bring to your attention, and I'm share the relevant links, is that the margin of error from the Bureau of Labor Statistics official figures on this probably is rather high for a community of Seldovia, so we can include the official figures, but also include the caveat that we recognize that there's a data gap for the community, and a head count would provide more accurate, relevant numbers. So I appreciate you flagging that, Commissioner Rain. Thank you.
Commissioner Forsberg?
Yeah, it was 2020.
Do you turn on your mic?
That 434, that was in 2020. That's probably has changed, I bet. It was 25.
It fluctuates every year.
Yeah. Seems to me like there's more people around here than there was 5 years ago.
Through the chair, I can say in the city we have about 40 more people, according to the Division of Community and Regional Affairs. So they have our numbers have increased 42 since 2020. So.
And then just to be specific, that includes the Seldovia Village Tribe census area and the city of Seldovia census area. So it's a combined combined number.
Correct. But overall, if I may, it did seem like it had a good snapshot and overall kind of picture of where the community is, and has been kind of steadily just moving along, with these small changes in the population. Okay, if there isn't anything further on that one, and as I said, please let me know if anything comes up in the future as you think through it. There is a section in here on housing that was in both plans. And again, so room for error, and I will see if I can have time here in the next couple of weeks to count employed people and households. But the statistic received was only around 85%, 85 households live in Seldovia full-time on a year-round basis. This means roughly 50% of the housing stock is vacant for at least part of the year, and much of it consisting of seasonal homes, vacation cabins, or second homes used during the summer months. Like I said, I can do a better count of that, but I will say, and recently for our grant, we did have to count a sizable portion of Seldovia, and it was most of the waterfront commercial residential district. And that was pretty consistent just for like that. What's the word I'm looking for?
Neighborhood?
Zone.
Zone.
Well, when you have like a smaller portion of the big pie, but so that little snapshot of it, so that was fairly consistent. Energy costs for home heating are high. Fuel, oil, or electricity for heat can be expensive in Seldovia, which effectively makes housing less affordable despite cheap purchase prices. And really wanted to comment and bring out that the Seldovia City Council actually just recently discussed utilities as part of the capital improvement plan, and that the feeling that that is one of the biggest barriers to home and business ownership in Seldovia. So that was something that was has been called out over the years, but was very heavily discussed during that meeting. And the community vision is updated to a 2025, 2024, or 2025, 2045 timeline. There's a section included right now that's community voices led to strategic pillars that includes the feedback received so far and how it has informed the plan. And then the plan elements are reformatted again to the 6 pillars with an opening table that includes pillars, goal, action, timeline, partners. So that is on here. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to find it I think I flipped too far. On page 15. So I did ask if to just see what it would look like to include the more in-depth information on each recommendation or action item into the table, because that was the one section where I found I was flipping back and forth between this really helpful table, and we discussed maybe having both formats of the table shortened like this and then the expanded one. If that makes sense, we can look at that. I don't know if you guys have feedback on that, but if you follow after the table, starting on page 20, is a more in-depth discussion on each of the pillars. So that a little bit of an overview of the desired future conditions. And sorry, that's 31 of the packet. And goals, recommendations, and actions. So goal 1, increase the availability and quality of year-round employment. And then under that being the action items, improve telecommunications, explore financial incentives for local businesses, create and implement a collaborative economic strategy, support economic gardening. And many of these, and Britta may have more information on that, but most of them, I would say, are from the 2014 plan, with updates to some from what was heard at the town hall or the town meeting, and then inclusion of new ones that were also discussed there, like E46 event and festival infrastructure was a new one. So I did put some considerations in this memo, but of course would really love to have the commission's feedback on every and all of it, but definitely reviewing those goals, recommendations, and actions for current applicability, prioritization, and their timeline, as well as the applicable partners. So do we need to remove any? Do we need to amend any, add any, reorder them? And provided some examples, like for instance, E14, which I had just read, support economic gardening. Is that language applicable still this day? It's kind of confusing to me when I read it, but maybe that's maybe that is a term that the community is used to, or a good planning term. But for instance, it's nurture existing businesses to grow into sustainable employers by offering technical support, access to funding, and shared market resources. So I will stop there unless you want me to go into the more specifics, but I did just put out some bullet points to look at. And I'm hoping that you guys want to go through it and just talk about, where we're at and where we want to be. Thank you.
So this is Randy. I've got some comments on the housing, and then I had some questions on the framework as far as because it seems like it's pillars, goals, action, timeline as far as the framework goes. And then like in here, it says goals, recommendations, and actions. And so is that, is the recommendation a carryover from the original plan, should that be abbreviated? And so that would just be a question on the housing. So having read it and then also listening to you, kind of the barriers being heating costs and transportation costs. But in the heating costs, some of the things that we heard at the HEA meeting this afternoon are concerning because at this point in time, renewable energy grants are basically stopped, and there is not a expectation of having renewable energy support financially from the federal government. So I think it's that's a big thing. I'm also wondering, if I understand that if someone wants to do, and this wasn't from the meeting, but I just heard it in the community, is that if you're wanting to do any solar projects or any any alternative energy projects, that there is funding this year to the end of the year. But so it would be helpful to get that confirmed. And then if anybody has any desire to do that kind of a project, it might be, and they're thinking about it, that there may be a limited time in terms of people being able to access that kind of funding, and maybe not be available for several years. So let's see. And then I guess there was also a conversation with HEA today, and just kind of any carbon fuels and the risk of higher prices. And so that's another thing that's just a factor in our potential increasing in costs of housing or maintaining your house. As far as availability of housing, I had a couple questions about where I know we've talked about dwelling units, but I don't know in our Seldovia municipal code. And so I don't know that we have any tiny houses or accessory dwelling unit types of code. And is that something that we might want to consider in this conversation of housing? And then another question I have is about do we have enough bandwidth to work with AHFC on a professional housing grant application? Because that opportunity has been there. I don't know how long that it will be there, but that's just something that could help us in that particular sector. So thank you.
I think Commissioner Ryan has her hand up.
Commissioner Ryan?
Hi, am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to the small scale, support economic gardening. I agree. That was confusing, and it should be, I would say, small scale farming maybe is a substitute for that, because farming is usually thought of as an economic endeavor. And for housing, I have written down, it's on page 9, so I'm not sure it was the smaller numbers on the packet. But one of the very last statements describing the housing situation was that housing stock meets the needs of the current population. And I was like, no, I don't think that's an accurate statement. I'm not exactly sure where to head you as far as finding that statement, but it was about talking about housing. And I have a bunch of similar type comments throughout. I tried to read it quickly this afternoon. But I probably will just write them up and send them in, because I don't think we're going to go by section. And if we do, then I'll be able to share them.
I was noticing on page 150, there's a housing virtual roundtable. That's the Kenai Peninsula housing affordability, availability, industry data, trends, and community impact. So I don't know. That's on, when is that? Starting the 4th at 10 a.m.
And I think there are some folks in our community that will be participating in that. And I think if you want to participate on it, you can get a link from Liz and get and the round table discussions there's a session on the 4th and a session on the 5th, and they're the same thing, but they're available so that people in the community can pick a time that's convenient for them.
And I believe Commissioner Sweet, are you going to be attending
I
one of
will
them?
be attending on the 5th, and then there's another session that's on the 10th, but I don't think they've provided further updates as far as a link or anything yet. Just to recognize the public.
Yeah, I was just curious, could you tell me the date again of that event?
Those two events, the 4th, so it's tomorrow at 10 and on Friday, and I believe it's at the same time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Let's see. Kenai.
Yeah, the notice should be on page 150 of the packet.
150 of the packet.
Economic Development District, and they have a phone number there.
So
It says 907 or 283-3335 is what they got.
okay, and I'll go ahead and turn it back over to the city manager to continue.
So really the hope is that if we want to comments in afterwards, Commissioner Ryan, that's great. And we can come back to this. We can hold a special meeting or what a work session or whatever works the best for the group. But I believe it would be helpful if the commission has any, if you haven't had a chance to fully look through it, to please do that. And then you can get us those comments back so that I can provide them to Britta and Danielle with AML, so that they can help incorporate those in the draft plan. Some other considerations noted on the memo, and as I mentioned, is formatting those pillar descriptions so that they're at the beginning of the plan elements, and then expanding the table to include those recommendations or actions. And that was a great point, Commissioner Sweet. Do you have a preference? Recommendations, actions, implementation? You want like one term?
I don't have any specific ones. I was just looking at, it was just a consistency thing. So if you're using your terms one way, then I would just say it's probably best to use them consistently in the document, and whatever you think is suitable is fine. But it was, yeah, just.
I think I would ask Britta on that one if she has in thought on picking one or the other term.
I think I want to, I guess, take away recommendations because it's a little less committal of language would be my preference. But that there are some items as goals that are not fully, that would require collaboration from entities outside of the city. And so recognizing that, so I think the use of both terms was maybe a little heavy-handed on our part to try to fully encapsulate the items listed as goals and recommendations. So I appreciate that feedback, and we'll edit for consistency across the document.
So I guess just kind of to clarify, because is it that a goal would be something that would be controllable by the Seldovia City Council or the City of Seldovia, and a recommendation would be something that would be a partnership type of thing? Is that kind of what you were thinking about when you were writing it?
That was the thought process, but as we haven't gone through, or for clarity within the document, items aren't identified as goals or recommendations. They are lumped together, like if you are looking in the pillar chart and timeline. So I think that removing the word recommendation for consistency and acknowledging the goals that require collaboration might be the most clear way to proceed in the organization of the document.
Whatever, yeah, and I think I'll leave it to you from the standpoint of crafting the document. But you have the feedback, and then you'll see what you think is most helpful.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
And so I guess I have a question for the city manager in that, what is it that you would like? Would you, because one of the things you were asking about is giving feedback on in writing, or having commissioners provide information in that way. In terms of today, do you want to go through the whole document? What do you think is most helpful in terms of the process?
Well, we do have Britta here, and she is taking notes. So
Okay.
if there are specific things that you want to provide to her, but I leave that to the commission. If you guys want to provide, if you want more time to consider and think through and then provide feedback later, I think that's acceptable as well.
Do the commissioners, do you have any particular preference at this point in time? Would you like to go through the remainder of the document now, or do you want to have time to study it and develop your recommendations and then turn them in?
One thing that grabbed me was that maybe extending the ferry time. Just something that I just seen. I haven't really looked too much through it, but
And it,
yeah, definitely it's a big document as far as looking through, so.
yeah, so is it helpful to talk it through? Because I know everybody is pressed for time, and if you have dedicated this time for this and continuing to go through it may be helpful to you, and then you can review it again, and then it makes more sense, as a second pass. So, I'm asking because I want to do what is, best for you and uh, Britta, can you have your hand up?
Commissioner Ryan.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Ryan, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so I would prefer to take my time and put my comments out separately than from this meeting. But I want to be able to reference the document correctly, and like there were two sets of numbers and and I can't flip back and forth. I'm not that capable on my screen right now. Or ever will be again in the future probably, but so it would be good to know if we should the numbering system so people can know where my comments go into the document.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I can resend out just the draft plan with that numbering system, and then you can reference those. That's
Okay.
easier.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, and then I guess from your standpoint, is there anything else maybe at a high level, anything that you're kind of like any thoughts that you have that might help the commissioners with their review process?
For me, it was helpful, and I understand that it's a heavy lift, but it was helpful to have the previous plan, the existing plan, and side by side be able to see, how those recommendations, I think we call them focus areas and goals and implementation recommendations, crossed over into this plan. So there were a couple that didn't make it in, and I made a note of that under the considerations. For instance, in the 2014 plan, they had taken advantage of diverse recreational opportunities. So maybe that needs to be put back in, or maybe it's in there in another format. Scale development to its setting, enhance, maintain, and protect scenic resources, and take a full advantage of Seldovia's northernmost ice-free port status. So those are ones that were in the plan, but aren't in this copy, that could be included if those are still applicable. Also, including in the plan potential 2026-2031 CIP considerations. For instance, there's a future consideration for airport water, sewer, fire, and suppression systems that could be applicable under T2-1, if that's something that is a desire to have as a comprehensive goal, to have that airport more developed. I call that out because we already do have in there lighting. So adding on to lighting, water, sewer, and fire suppression, that's something that one of our council members brought up. And then, again, looking at things like hangar, aviation, and development for applicability. I mean, it's great, I think, to say, we want to encourage development, and, or, and it would be nice to see the airport developed, but some of those are like, where is the city's role in that? And maybe just better defining that, since the airport is state owned and operated. I also included on, for instance, C43, if has that been accomplished with the annual budget narrative? Is that something that we're already doing, or does it need to be still more specifically called out in the plan? And then under R3.3 climate and hazard monitoring, again, another one that we actually have a few partners who do this, and they have active monitoring systems on our dock, and they come in once a month and they check data. And we work closely with the National Weather Service, and this KB has it on and I think actually the National Weather Service has one on our dock as well. So, just thinking about what the city's role is in these goals, not that they're not valuable or that they need to be removed, but that maybe the wording that, the city needs to integrate, or I think it's like the city needs to establish a monitoring program and then integrate that into our planning, which I think, overall integrating that data into our planning is a great idea, but is it the city who's establishing that plan? So just taking a really good look at each of these items, remembering that they come from 2013, 2014, and they all still have value in one way or another. But in terms of today, where are we, and what is that goal, and what are those recommendations, and are they still applicable? So it's a big project, I guess, is what I
Yeah.
say.
And kind of using the monitoring as an example, other parties may be doing the monitoring, and the city may want to leverage the monitoring and get the data, get data so that it can be used for decision making, but we're not implementing the monitoring systems. So it potentially, right? I mean, or
Right.
is that kind of the, and it almost would fit into a recommendation kind of as we were talking about recommendations versus goals. I mean, however, but it's like the point at which the city is not the responsible party, somebody else is, but the city can leverage good information for decision making and strategic planning because of the information that other parties are producing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it says establish a local environmental monitoring program to track changes in sea level weather patterns and resource availability, integrating data into city planning. So maybe that is where we're at, and that's something that you guys want the city to focus on and do. I know that we have it as a priority from the city council to maintain our partnerships and to collaborate, and that's a big focus. And that we don't have to do this all ourselves. And so that's an area where perhaps we can call out that we will continue to work with our partners on these programs and then implementing or integrating that data into our planning.
Okay, because so for example, NOAA could be a partner and they are potentially doing some monitoring already. And maybe the National Weather Service is doing some of this type of monitoring. So it's just understanding, I guess the need for the information is there, and then the collaboration and then leveraging that is what I'm hearing. This is at least a potential area.
Yeah. And that's just an example of, when taking an initial review, a deep dive into this plan of things that could be updated. So
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Forsberg and then Commissioner Kroll.
And maybe something helpful would be, like, say, you put water out there at the airport, would be what are the costs?
mhm.
That would help make decisions. I mean, you got water right behind the state building here as far as coming down the hill, so it might not cost too much, but and then the return.
And through the chair, excellent point, Commissioner Forsberg, and that's really where our CIP comes into play, which is a great, like all of these, and it talks about at the end of this draft, a family of plans. And so the city council also talked about during the CIP discussion, including a few more planning documents under quality of life and economic development for housing. So a housing plan or a housing assessment, and then safe streets transportation plan. We're also working on a climate action resilience plan with AML. And we have a grant in for a hydrology wetlands assessment, which is just another great planning tool. Maybe not necessarily part of the family plan, but again, having that data and being able to incorporate it into our projects as we move forward and have those informed discussions and then projects. But with the CIP, that's a big goal, is to have project costs and things as we go. But I will point out with the airport, that again is it's a collaborative project because it is state owned and ran. And so, it could be that it's in the comprehensive plan and it's in the CIP. And then the city is asking the state to consider it in their next call out for projects for statewide transportation infrastructure plan, and including that in the STIP. But just having that recognition that may not be something that is in the city's purview to do, but that we can recommend, suggest, and prioritize.
Then
Well-
Commissioner Kroll.
Yeah, I had the idea that I could put the plan up there. There's a couple of AIs. They're getting better now with the grounded search and everything. That maybe you could take your concerns and then ask questions about the plan and how it would affect those, and then what you could do. What you could ask for, I guess, what you could do about it. And then that would give you an idea of what feedback to give on the plan itself. It's just by taking your concerns and seeing how they relate to the changes, I guess. So I could put both plans up there and then have it, they would be aware, or might be able to make a summary of the changes.
So that's something that you would be willing to do and see
Yeah,
what and then you could see what came out of it, and it would be something that we could discuss.
Yeah, I can share the link actually. So it's like a living document that people can query and make sense of, I guess, in their own terms.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you. Commissioner Ryan, any additional feedback from you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, what you just talked about, Henry, sounds very intriguing. It'll be interesting to find out how we would get to something you put out there, if it's going to be on putting on the government, on the city's page, or anyhow, it's kind of scary to me, but I'm willing to try it. It sounds like a really good tool. And yeah, I no, I don't have any other comments other than that.
Yeah, it's public information. Just don't put anything private in there and you'll be fine, I guess.
Okay.
And through the chair, yeah, so if you could share that with the city staff, then we can make sure that it's available to the public and the commission.
Yeah, and I was just thinking I could post a link on the chatterbox too. Seldovia chatterbox, I don't know.
Not through the city.
Oh,
So
just-
you'd have to send it to Clerk Diamond and she can post it on the city site, the city Facebook page.
Yeah. I could do that.
Thank you.
I have one sort of like more higher level question, and that is, so we're talking about the pillars, the goal, the actions, and the timeline, and then we have implementation time frames that are fairly broad, and they kind of go over, I guess, a couple of decades, and then so I was curious about, are they can all start at different times? I mean, because there's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, I think, and so there were longer timelines, like 9 to 15 years, but is it gonna, so is that something that potentially starts at the 9th year and it goes to the 15th year, or does it start anytime during the, anytime during the, the plan, range? And then, and I may not have seen this, but one of the things I'm thinking about is communicating about what is happening on a year-to-year basis so that we're engaging with the community, so that obviously we want the public comment, but we want to establish a communication pattern so that people expect to hear about what's being done. And then at some point in time, those timeframes that are kind of broad will need to get condensed into an action plan and you have dates and that are specific. So it's so that's just one. As we're going along, I don't need an answer necessarily right now, but it's just how do we make sure that the plan is known? We know that the community accept it, that the community sees that as relevant to what the community wants, and that we're continually communicating to make sure that they're understanding what is happening, and then they're able to give feedback so that we just have a continuous way of communicating with each other. And I see that, Britta, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. If I may, through the chair, I really appreciate your sentiment about transparency and accountability with the public. And so under resources, the resources and timeline section of the plan, some of, I think, your questions about phasing in the timeline, though I recognize that including in appendices such as like a Gantt chart that more clearly outlays like the sequencing of steps. And so we have principles for phased implementation that like kind of informs the framework of how the timeline has been structured. But I am taking note of your request for more detail. And then in that previous section, in terms of how we are identifying, I guess there is for looking at the family of plans, but we can bring this to the higher level as well. The need for a transparency dashboard to update, have that regularly available. And I think you mentioned on an annual basis, but perhaps maybe more of a quarterly or biannual basis of updating what goals of this plan have been met or progress that has been made towards those plan. So we can elevate those two components of the current document, as well as add more detail for the timeline. But in your further review of the document, I just wanted to note that those sections are in there now, but certainly could benefit for more detail and certainly will benefit from your input. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I think this is just, I have one last comment, and that is about just it's pretty dense document with a lot of text. And so I'm thinking that there will be other development of the plan in terms of making it user friendly and readable. I'm kind of unabsorbable, but I think it's readable now, but it's just being able to absorb that kind of information.
Through the chair, yes, much appreciated. We will be bringing in a graphic designer to make this document a more approachable and user-friendly. And I really like the term absorbable. We want to make sure a document that anyone, not just a planning commissioner, can take off the shelf and find engaging and approachable. So appreciate that comment.
Thank you. And then I just being respectful of the members of the public that are here, just if anybody, does anybody have any comments so far in this conversation about the comprehensive plan? No. Thank
Not
you.
seeing any
And
comment.
then,
Well,
If you could wait for the mic.
oh, sorry.
Thank you. This is Jenny. I guess I agree with Randy in that it's hard to grasp all of it. It's a very big document, and to whittle it down, take all the considerations in one setting like this, I can imagine that's pretty daunting. I don't know if in your public comment period to have maybe three that's a section for each, like if you're interested in housing or if you're interested in a part of this plan that matters to you, come to this meeting and participate and be a part of a workshop. Maybe that's a way that people could become more engaged and understand too, just when something's on the agenda that you're interested in, people will participate as opposed to this huge document. They're just overwhelmed. And a lot of people do just sit for the first time sitting here. So they can't even process that much information. And it might be the best way to give a little summary and say, these are the things we're talking about. If you're interested, please come and participate. So that's all.
Thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to the city manager.
I just had two things that I would be remiss if I didn't include, and you'll see a lot of red at the end of this plan, the crossing out the comments related to land use master plan. And really that's more the language included is does not necessarily meet what how the land use plan is being used currently. That doesn't mean we can't do that in the future, but that lump is right now geared towards city properties and an inventory of city properties that are held on to, or what those recommendations are for those properties. So that's why you'll see that. And then also that I would note from an administrative standpoint, the one thing that was to me seemed glaringly obvious that was maybe missing, or there wasn't quite a piece that fit. And you guys will have to check me when you're doing the review and let me know what you think. But we're talking about the CIP and referring it back, and it even says here at the end of the document under integration opportunities to embed select CIP projects under each pillar and use CIP updates as an annual check-in point for the comprehensive plan. We do heavily use the CIP in our budget process and in the city office, and just guiding where we're spending our staff time and resources. So the thing, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in the next discussion, but it's probably more applicable here, is that in reviewing the CIP in comparison to the comprehensive plan, there's not a big emphasis on maintaining city infrastructure. And that is a big part of the CIP, and something that the city council has said in the last couple of years that they wanted to focus on maintaining the existing infrastructure, taking care of deferred maintenance needs before bringing on some bigger, more lofty projects and goals. And we are making fairly good progress on those. And I'm excited to see some of the projects come through in the next couple of years. But from an administrative standpoint, it definitely seemed like that was a hole that could be addressed in this plan of the importance of having a asset management plan, ensuring that we're tracking the useful life of buildings and equipment and infrastructure that we're working on, so that we're prepared when those items are coming to the end of their useful life, that we can replace them, and just making sure that we're more cognizant, so we're not left in this place where we have a lot of overwhelming needs and no plan to address them. So that's something we've been working on through the CIP, and I did develop a in-house asset management plan last year. That's still working on actually implementing it in our day to day. But I could see value in that if if you guys are, when you're reviewing and you notice that, especially when we start talking about the CIP, that maybe there's potential for that inclusion of that item in the plan somewhere.
Thank you. Any further comments before we go on to the next agenda item? Commissioner Kroll?
Is that graphic design idea for the plan? Or yeah, are you going to use like a free tool like Slack or something where it's collaborative from the public, or I don't know, it sounds like a great idea.
Through the chair, so AML does have a graphic designer on staff, and they'll utilize them to help provide those recommendations for the plan.
The Gantt charts so that you know what times and everything.
Mhm. Yes, through the chair. And so we do have, I guess I just want to note that upon review of this draft by the commission as well as the city council, we will have a public comment period open again. And I am eager to work with you all on how we can best facilitate that to be meaningful and approachable for members of the public in your community. And then we will be utilizing in-house graphic design capacity to make improvements for the approachableness of this plan prior to that public involvement, so that the plan can be approached by the public to the best of all of our ability.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else, Commissioner Kroll? Okay, thank you. So, so we'll go ahead and close this agenda item out. And then we'll move on to the capital improvement plan and alignment with the comprehensive plan update. So I'll turn it over to the city manager again. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So starting on page 57 of the packet, you will see a table of contents, and this is how I start this plan because it helps to have a guide to know what pages need updated and what new pages need to be included, and what pages can be removed. So the Seldovia City Council had a meeting last Monday, a work session specific to the capital improvement plan. And we did a project call out we do annually where we invite members of the public to provide input on projects that they would like to see included in the CIP, or if they have prioritization needs or recommendations to provide that input. We also send out invites to individual organizations, local organizations like the Seldovia Arts Council, the Seldovia Chamber of Commerce, Seldovia Village Tribe, Seldovia Recreational Service Area Board, etc., to see if they have any projects that they would like the city to include, or that they have projects of their own organization that they would like to have included to show support from the city for those projects. We did not receive any project recommendations through that invitation and call out, but we do have a list of potential projects for inclusion or future consideration based on recent discussions, our partnerships, recent grants that we've applied for, the comprehensive plan meeting, and as well as needs determined by staff or requested by the council or public. So I provided this memo that's on page 60 to the council during that discussion, and we went over the table of contents as well as for what the existing projects are, as well as some potential projects for inclusion. And based on their feedback, I have created a draft, and that's what's on page 56. And not to make you flip back and forth, sorry, but having that draft, you can see the cross-out ones are the ones that we either are moving or are nearly complete. And then the ones in bold but not underlined are new projects. And I also wanted to point out the ones that are heavily in progress, like the Jackloff Bay dock replacement project and the raw water transmission line replacement project, that we anticipate will be completed in the next year or two. I should have also included on there energy improvements for fuel retail and distribution facilities. Except I didn't, now that I'm remembering, because there's only one phase that we're working on. And I believe it's a multi-phase project that's in the plan. So I did take the initiative to start with an aligning to review how these projects again align with the draft comp plan. And so some of them very easily line up. It's in the comp plan, it's in the CIP, and they match, or very easily fall under. And then, like I said, I could probably, I'm sure there are places in there where water and sewer projects, where road projects, well, and you'll see the road projects actually do integrate, but stormwater management, stormwater is not really mentioned in the comprehensive plan itself, and some of these like rolling stock equipment replacement. So it's part of just upkeeping our facilities and infrastructure. So I left those blank for now, just as to show that those aren't fully called out. And then I also included on both and I apologize, it says progress made in FY24. That should say FY25, but that's the bottom of page 57. Progress made in FY25. So then you'll see the projects that we have been working on in the CIP. That's energy improvements, multi-purpose buildings, city office, stormwater management, etc. That's not to say we're not still working on the other ones. I've had conversations with individuals about the value added building. We've looked at grants for the multi-purpose building maintenance and energy efficiency improvements. The city council prioritized rolling stock for a legislative request through the state of Alaska, as well as we included one in the AML heavy equipment bundle that they submitted as a federal request. So we're still working on a large section of the plan, but even if we're not necessarily making progress, I guess progress I just want to call out is saying, there's funds available, or we're actually actively working on that project. So just to call that out. Projects completed were the roof repairs for the city awning, Seldovia Safe Roads program. That's not necessarily completed, but the funding is completed, and that's an ongoing project. So we're no longer seeking funding for it at this time. Doesn't mean we won't be in the future. We still have about $33,000 to spend out on that project, as well as the existing material we have now. We did create a master stormwater and drainage management plan. We did complete the repairs on the large boat haul out trailer repair, as well as the repairs on a septic lift station. So we are steadily moving through the plan, and also put in here that the next steps would be having this discussion with the Seldovia Planning Commission on how the projects are supported by the comprehensive plan. So I guess that's the input we're looking for tonight. And then once we receive that back, it can go to the Seldovia City Council for a final draft plan review, where they also can prioritize their projects if there are changes in the prioritization level, and potentially adopt that plan. So that was a lot of information. Definitely let me know if you need anything repeated, but hoping if you guys want to just give us an overview of that page 56 and 57 for initial projects, versus looking at where we've made progress, and some of those new ones. So the housing needs assessment, emergency food cash storage program, the Safe Streets Transportation Plan, the Health Impact Assessment, Climate Action Resilience Plan, and Hydrology Wetlands Assessment, as well as the airport lighting water and sewer and fire suppression improvements as a collaborative project with ADOT. So those are the new ones. And lastly, well, let's have that discussion and then we can go further. If you guys have any thoughts.
Commissioner Ryan, do you have any feedback?
No, not
Okay.
really.
Thank you.
I'm having a hard time following the discussion, actually. That's my feedback. It's yeah, so remote participation has its downsides.
Understand. Commissioner Forsberg, do you have any feedback?
Not right now. I seen on the schedule, we're gonna be doing this again, next month, October, sorry.
The CIP? No, you'll be doing the comprehensive plan. So, but you can do the CIP again if you want. When I have a full draft document, the hope was to start with the table of contents because then I'm hopefully making good use of time by actually writing up the projects that the commission and council want improved, want included instead of I don't want to be writing things that the bodies don't agree with having included. So looking for that feedback. And then if there are things that could be removed or should be removed, additional things that should be added, please let me know. One thing that I was going to bring up is that we're removing rural professional housing development project, which is something that Chair Sweet mentioned as a potential grant opportunity moving forward. But when we were discussing that with the council last year, they had asked staff to kind of put more of a pause on that and have a focus on a needs assessment. So that could be moved to a future consideration. And then instead including under that quality of life, that housing need assessment to see that can inform then that project, if that's a potential project to move forward with or not, that would help provide that data moving forward. The other one that was on my mind, a similar vein, is a safe streets transportation plan that has been identified as a need. We went through the Safe Streets for All plan with the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Excellent plan. They did a great job. Borough's a huge area, and they picked 20 projects out of the whole area to focus on. And they were very kind and supportive that they wanted to make sure that every community had a project. So Jack Loft ended up in the plan, which is great, but it doesn't necessarily help move us forward as a community with some of the more in-depth transportation concerns that we keep hearing about at that comprehensive plan meeting. The two things we heard most were pedestrian safety and wanting to maintain the pool. So, but pedestrian safety and transportation safety came up over and over again as something that we hear from the public and we hear in council, and I'm sure the VPSOs hear a bunch of it. So having that safe streets transportation plan, we did actually sign up with AML, again, Alaska Municipal League, as part of a bundle. They put out a grant application for a bundled project that takes 15 communities in the state of Alaska, and then we can have a more in-depth plan that focuses on our area. And so with that in mind, I had this thought, then if we're moving the rural professional housing development out until the housing needs assessment can be completed, do we need to move some of these safe surface transportation projects? Not necessarily the boardwalks, because we are I just am getting ready to submit 2 grants Monday morning on those, one for each project. But for instance, we have Spillum and Malcolm subdivision platted row in here. And we also have it under water and sewer. And those were the intent of putting those in there was like the rural professional housing development. And that was to show support for development in the community. And so having that safe streets transportation plan and the housing needs assessment again would hopefully provide that more informed decision making on where to develop in the community and what kind of housing and what kind of roads, what is it that the community actually needs. So that is something that could be backtracked and put onto future considerations if that made sense. I don't know if you guys have thought further process on that, but also to caveat that I had a wonderful discussion today with Miss Jenny Chissis, if she doesn't mind me calling her out, that there are individuals, and so we did provide a plat and lay down. There are individuals that are interested in developing in that Malcolm Street Spillum area, but there are certainly some roadblocks, pun intended, with the wetlands on the more northern side, and then we have a steep embankment on the southern side of that area. So certainly will take some, of course, and with anything in engineering and planning and time to work through what that would look like and the sources of funding. And, right now we have a special assessment district where individuals, if they want to develop, they can come together as a neighborhood, and then that area would be developed and for utilities and roads. And then that cost burden is shared throughout those individuals in the neighborhood. But looking at maybe some shorter term solutions, if there are, code changes or variances or packages that could put together that would be that would allow, for walk-in development and lower impact water and sewer needs. I'm not sure, and if this is something that we want to include in either planning document or just thinking through. This is a big discussion, so maybe it needs to be a separate discussion moving forward. But tying these all together as we're thinking about the vision for the city moving forward and how to support individuals if they have properties and they want to be able to develop them. And then also keeping in mind that making those smart decisions and having those informed, plans to help guide that. So what do we do, like a short-term, long-term plan for people to support people moving forward? And that was a lot. I apologize.
So it's what I'm hearing you say is that it's an opportunity to look at alternative ways of doing things and helping support solutions to housing and other things. So that's it. I mean, it's something that's just coming up and being thought about. And so I'm just taking in what you're saying, and then just like to recognize Ms. Chissis.
Thank you. Yeah, I had come to Heidi today just because I do have a couple lots that are currently listed for sale on Malcolm. 2 of them are at the top of the hill and 1 is near the bottom. None of them are in the wetlands. That's really not the issue, but that's why they're of interest to people. But you do have to traverse over Spillum and traverse over Malcolm. And Malcolm just recently was cleared out with HEA. So it's really easy to kind of get out there now, which is better, but it's very steep. It's not accessible with a vehicle at all. I do have people looking at it and interested in it. And I came to Heidi today because what I would love to see is some kind of parameters offered to those property owners for development in the interim prior to some kind of road or boardwalk or some solution in the bigger picture at a later date. But how could someone buy the property today and build something that they can enjoy? This system out what it's going to be, because government takes a while. It takes a while. Coordination with fellow neighbors takes a while if they're doing some kind of a community cooperative solution, working for grants or things like that with the city. But there's just a lot of things that have to come together to put the area up. And I don't have specific solutions, but boardwalks, stairs, there could be some really unique properties that are developed with, I think I was talking to Heidi today about San Francisco, the zigzag, road. And I think you could have a zigzag stairway all the way up, and saying I live on that stairway would be kind of cool as far as a property off of that stairway. And I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just saying there's solutions that need to be made. Those are properties that are big enough to house, to put a home on and to enjoy. It's in the city. It's walking distance to everything. It's desirable, though it is complicated. And I would love to see parameters of how someone could enjoy those properties, could develop something that's acceptable to the city. One of the questions was just asked to me recently is, how do I comply with 2 parking spots when cars can't even get there? And do I have to do that? Cars will never get there. I don't see that being a possibility on the top lots, maybe the bottom lot, but the top one, the top 2, no, it's just too steep. So what kind of short solutions can we offer these folks so that they could develop the property, enjoy the property, and be people who are stakeholders in seeing something really great happening there, which would be a benefit to the whole community? It's just hard to sell a property to someone who says, can I develop here? I can't do 2 parking spots. Will my building permit not be approved? It's more than 200 feet away from sewer main and water main, so there is an exemption for that. But can we be assured that they can have that, and what systems would work? Composting toilet, incinerator toilet, there are solutions. What could we offer how can we say yes to development on these properties that are challenging, because they are challenging. And I was just hoping that the commission could look at that and maybe have some proposals that would give someone hope that they could do something on these properties if they bought them. So thank you. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
So,
I do.
oh, go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Is that would that be a good place for like a view park or something? Is a good view up there?
Would there be a view? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I don't see view territorial. It's looking down. It's not looking towards the slough. It's looking down towards Anderson Way, and I don't see them as view properties. Yeah,
And
I don't
zone residential.
They are zoned residential, correct?
So
Thank you. So I'm wondering if the property owners have ideas about how they could do that, because that perhaps one of the things that could happen is frame it as an alternative housing development conversation, and then have the property owners talk about how they think they might be able to develop it, because they may have some ideas already, and then having a conversation about that. And then I'm imagining it would need to go into our Seldovia municipal code, if we were to craft some kind of alternative, because it could be like an alternative housing development pilot or something like that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe AHFC might be interested in helping, or I don't know what the possibilities are, but maybe starting the frame as being kind of a little bit of blue skying, and then seeing what the what the landowners might have in mind, then that could help the conversation and kind of help direct
Well, this is,
or the development of some way of managing that from a code standpoint. I think the other option, it seems like there might be some variances available. So, but I think it would be good to have a conversation about ideas and what could be possible, and then at some point in time it needs to go from sort of more kind of blue skying to, well, what does that look like from a development standpoint?
I appreciate what you're saying, Randy, and I hear you. But what we're dealing with right now are 3 different property owners who are looking to sell their property. They're really not trying to blue sky or brainstorm anything. They're just looking to let go of their properties. They're not planning to develop them. So I'm talking to people who do not have an interest in the property right now. They're talking about it and they just want to know, can I develop it if I buy it? Right? So they're not in a position to recommend or make requests or apply for variance. They're just not. They're not even property owners yet. So what I guess I'm trying to see is if there was something that said, for this district, we wouldn't require 2 parking spaces. And check, that's a box they're not going to worry about. For this district, you can have a composting toilet. Check, that's not a problem. We don't have to connect to water and sewer quite yet. Obviously, as soon as those services are available, they are required to connect, and that is code. But I guess I'm just trying to say those are the questions they're asking, like, can we develop them? And to me, the city should be able to say, yes, you can. And these are the parameters. You're not going to need parking. Yeah, you can't go pee off your deck, and no, you can't run water off the land down onto the neighbor's property, right? There's certain things you can't do, but it seems like there could be some parameters that work for initially, so someone can say, yeah, I think the city will work with me, and I think I can make something happen there and invest in our community.
So maybe one of the things, because it sounds like there needs to be a collaboration. The city can't, I don't know if the city's going to just like come up with whatever. So part of it is that if you know that there are specific issues that would need variances, it's like we need a variance for a composting toilet, or we need a variance for no parking, or whatever you think needs to be done. Even it doesn't have, I don't think it has to be like a book report, but it just to kind of define what it is that you see as problems that need to be overcome. And then that way the city can look at it and go, do we want to, these are the issues, and do we want to be able to say in these particular lots, you can do this.
So if I'm saying that, are you saying it comes from me, or are you saying from the property owner? What are you asking for?
I would think that the property owners are the ones that want to sell, right? So if they know of specific problems that they would like to have evaluated, then I think it would be incumbent on the property owners to just say, these are the things that we have as obstacles to overcome, and we would like consideration for variances, at least at a discussion level. That way, whoever's going to look at it is going to have something concrete to deal with, not coming up with whatever variances, known or unknown. I think it's reasonable to ask the property owners to identify what it is that they're having problems with that would prevent them from developing, and then we can have a conversation about that. I'm at any rate, if anybody else has any feedback on that, Commissioner Forsberg.
Where are these lots at?
And are the people selling these lots, do they live nearby?
There's three different sellers. None of them live in Seldovia.
Oh,
And I guess to your recommendation, Randy, the sellers aren't the ones that are going to develop these properties. The buyers are. So the buyers are the ones that have the questions. It's like if you're buying a house and you want to do something, you're selling a house, you don't know what the next buyer is going to do with that house. Can they run a cat kennel in that house? Well, they need to find out the code, and and that's what helps them to buy the house, to say, yeah, I guess I can run a kennel in this house. But the seller has no idea what the buyer is going to do. So it doesn't,
So
I don't know.
are you saying that that then if somebody's a buyer, that they should then ask those questions and identify whatever issues that they see with developing their property if they were to buy it?
That's exactly why I'm here. I'm talking to a buyer who says, do I need to have 2 parking spaces if I buy this to build a little
And
cabin
that's
here?
their only question?
That's one of them. The other one is just with the 200-foot exemption for connecting to water and sewer. Is it going to be allowable for us to have a composting toilet and be able to stay here for more than 30 days on our property? Or are we going to be, required to connect to a service we cannot connect to in order to stay here? So those are the concerns that I'm getting.
So they have two concerns.
Well, the other concern would be accessing the property, because it is, even though the road is platted, there's legal access to the properties. It's not super viable. It's wetlands along Spillum, and then it's super steep up Malcolm. So right now I have buyers who say, I don't mind hiking in. Okay. So they're kind of fine with that. But the question is, where are they going to park their car when they hike in? Are they going to park on Young Street? Are they going to park on Anderson? Do they need to park down on Main Street? So that's another question that's very real, and maybe they just get a 4-wheeler and just drive it in the trail, just make a trail for the 4-wheeler, and that could work. So, yeah, the parking is an issue, but I also think that people might have to understand they don't have parking there at this time unless they just drive over Muskeg and up
Okay, so
the hill.
so the 3 issues are parking, chemical or some kind of a toilet, not yet that's not connected to
Utility
the
connection,
utilities,
yeah.
And access in terms of, they either have to go in by a 4-wheeler and or find a different place to park. But so those are the 3, yes, those are the 3 issues. And do you have a specific lot on that one?
All 3 of them have the same issue. Right now I have 2 buyers looking at 2 of the lots.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay. So, I guess from a process standpoint, what would be the best way to present those questions for evaluation?
So if that's something that the commission wants to consider, you could direct staff to look at, to reach out to resources like AHFC or the city clerk group cohort, and any other resources that we can find to see if there are other communities with some similar circumstances that we can model after. And then we could bring this back as a standalone discussion in the future, if that's something the commission wants to consider.
Commissioner Forsberg?
these lots are empty.
Correct.
Yes.
So how are they gonna get their building material up there?
Carry it in on 4-wheelers. Yeah. They'd have to huff it in.
I think they got access to do that.
They have access. You're absolutely right. They have access to the property. The question was, are we according to zone? If they could, because if they build something, they're going to come into you guys and they're going to say, I have a building permit and I'm within my 5-foot setbacks. And I have a structure that's in compliance in every way for the city, but I do not have 2 parking spaces because I can't even get a vehicle up here. Is that going to negate their ability to get a building permit? That's the one question.
Okay.
Another one is if they stay on the property and they have a composting toilet or they have something like that, are people going to get up in arms because they're not connected to city water, because that is code to connect, but they are over 200 feet away from the main. So is that going to raise questions and problems, or is that going to be okay? Is that okay?
So I think in order to at least start the ball rolling, I guess one question I would have for the commission is, would it be, if somebody would like to make a motion to ask the city staff to explore these issues and find out if there are communities that have already that communities that have already addressed this, and if there's some model code that could be used to get that information in a timely manner, and then that could be discussed either at a special meeting or at the next commission meeting. Commissioner Kroll.
I'm thinking kind of a malicious compliance, so make something that looks like a parking spot, even though he can't really park there.
Yeah. There's several blocks here in town that don't have parking spots. Isn't there?
There are ways that properties have like parking pads where they have boardwalks that they park on. But typically every place has or should have parking.
I know that the place right on the slough that's been for sale for years, that doesn't have a parking spot.
It comes in on the side. And then there's one in front of it. And depending on which place you're looking at.
That new place, I mean, they
Yeah.
didn't finish it.
Yeah, there's parking on the side. They can come in.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Huh.
And
But it sounds like it's a question of variance,
Mhm.
does a garage or a carport, or does that count as a parking space?
In the code, I think it can be covered, yes, be a parking. Driveway does not count, but covered parking does.
So just to I guess there's a motion to get information about these 3 issues. So if somebody could make a motion to the effect of evaluating the 3 issues in terms of chemical or other types of toilet, parking place, and
Additional parking off-site because they can't
just
get
parking, just to deal with the issue of parking. It could be a variance to whatever it is, but to actually just that there's an issue with parking, there's an issue with
parking spaces.
sewage, and an issue with access, right? So it's just to find out any kind of code that has dealt with those issues that Seldovia could use to benchmark and to get, so that we can actually get information about this and then evaluate it, and then provide feedback to the potential to, I guess at this point, we'd provide it back to you, and then you could provide it to your clients.
Chair Sweet, if I may, I don't really know that we need a motion for this since it's not an agenda item currently. The staff can do some research and we can put it under
Okay.
upcoming
So we'll
commission
we'll
business.
just leave it at that, and then once we have information back, then we'll bring it back up, or if, yeah, so.
We can add it to our upcoming commission business list.
Okay. And we're keeping what we're doing with open items is that we're tracking them so that they don't get lost, and we're just making sure that, you know, when they can be acted on, because some of it is other parties are not acting, so we can't act without their action. But for things that we're working on and can bring back and get done, we're trying to move things through so that answers can be provided.
Well, I thank you for hearing me and considering how we can take care of property owners in our community and encourage development, even in unusual places, you know, to have somebody willing to do that and huff stuff in and do all that. It's a special person, right? So we want to be encouraging to those folks who want to make something better in Seldovia. So thank you for your time.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so I think so we were working on the CIP, and I think we're done with the discussion on the CIP at this point, or was there anything else that you wanted to
Through the chair. So, no, if that concludes any additional thoughts or considerations you guys have, if you have anything regarding projects being added, removed, or changed, please let me know. I did put for now that rural professional housing development, Spillum and Malcolm, or both road development, water and sewer, be moved to future consideration in order to allow focus on the housing needs assessment and safe streets transportation plan to be able to inform those recommendations for development in the future, unless you guys have any other thoughts on that or direction. And please, yes, provide us any feedback you have. I'm hoping to have a draft ready by September 22nd to be sent to the Seldovia City Council to review.
I did have one question on the health impact assessment. It's got 3 different topics. Is it 3 different plans?
So it's 2 plans. It's health impact assessment and climate action resilience plan. But they go together because the health impact assessment is going to inform the climate action resilience plan. And this is a project that we're actually already a part of as a cohort through Alaska Municipal League.
Okay, thank you.
And Chair Sweet, if I may, it looks like we have one more public comment.
Susan, I'd just like to.
How did you advertise the need for organizations to comment on things that need to go into the comprehensive plan, such as the Arts Council or the Chamber or whatever? Did you send them an email? Did you talk to the president? How did you do that?
I had verbal confirmations and sent emails to.
Who did we send an email to? Because I didn't get one.
That one to Susie Stranick for the Arts Council, to Ashley Keithley for the Arts Council, and to the General Arts Council, to Tanya and to Marianne for distribution to everybody.
Okay.
But we still have time for project submittals.
We just curious.
Okay, so we'll just move on to the next item, which is staff reports and commercial business district ordinance update. That was our long-term central business district work that we did, and so that ordinance was adopted by the council on the 25th of August.
Congratulations, Planning Commission. That was a lot of work.
Yeah, everybody here and all the folks from the subcommittee, just so a lot of work and a lot of involvement from the community. And I think one of the things that I think was particularly effective was the use of workshops with the city council and making sure that they had comfort with what was going on and opportunity to understand things and to make comments, because by the time it got to the city council, they were well versed in what was going on and any issues that they had were addressed. So I was really pleased to see that all of those efforts, and it was amongst a whole bunch of people, to make sure that there was communication and understanding. So I really appreciate the time and effort that it took to get that done. And then, whoops, excuse me, sorry, I'm having a blast of sunshine.
You approved
Ordinance.
up online on the website, city site.
It still needs to be signed by the mayor, so it is not up yet. I can put up an unsigned draft.
And then I'll turn this over to the city clerk for the item 2 and others. I guess item 2.
All right, so item 2 is the upcoming and open commission business. So first is building and site development permit topographical impacts. City Manager Gagel has been working on that, and next draft was not quite ready for this meeting, but hopefully we'll be ready for next meeting, maybe.
Well, hopefully.
Hopefully. The Cedar Street extension, we're waiting a plan from one of the parties on there to submit for Mr. Sandland. And once he does that, and if the residents are on board with doing a public use easement or another one, they're going to come back to that discussion once we have a plan in place from Mr. Sandland, so we can see what his development plan is and need for that. I don't know if Commissioner Sweet has anything else to add on that one. Not at this time. The planning website updates are ongoing as well. And there should be, once the zoning ordinance was passed and signed, we'll have, hopefully that updates will go live here in the next month. The abatement and public nuisance draft ordinance is back with legal to try and address some issues that were found with it. The main one being that there was previously language that allowed impoundment off of city property within 72 hours. And that was removed in order to make a broader timeline of 30 days. However, remove that ability of the city to do that quicker.
And that's vehicle specific, right?
Vehicle specific, yeah. So we wanted to make sure the city retained that for city property. Let's see where we're at. Item E is administrative public hearing draft ordinance, and I believe that's on hold for the moment. And then next up is the communication towers draft ordinance, and there has not been a lot done on this one, but we can move it up the list if the commission has a desire to do that. And don't know if anybody has any questions currently on any of those items.
Allison, do you have any questions on the updates?
No.
Thank you.
And you'll see that the building permit is removed from here because currently we do not have any.
And then coming back to the city manager for city manager's update.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just pulling up my most recent city manager's report from the August 25th meeting. Did that make it into the packet, City Clerk Diamond? Don't think that it did. I don't think it did, but we can provide that to you separately if you'd like. It is on the website under the August 25th, 2025 City Council meeting laydown. And so just to give you guys a little overview of where we're at, because I know that helps inform decision making. Let's see. My computer's being tricky with me right this second. Okay. So quick update here. I attended the AML summer conference in Utqiagvik from August 11th and 15th. There was some weather issues with the volcanic activity, so some of the representatives or presenters that were supposed to be there didn't make it. However, the ones that were there were fabulous. We did have we had representatives from the state legislature. We had representatives from the area. There was a member of the Denali Commission there. So just some really good conversation on building relationships and local partnerships the North Slope Borough and their partners in the area, both regional and then on a more local level, had really great organizational alignment where they had these formal partnerships that they called trilaterals. Which was it would be, for instance, like if the city of Seldovia, the Seldovia Village Tribe, the Seldovia Native Association came together as an organization and had a list of priorities that all three organizations supported, and then they are able to move those forward, and then it actually goes up to their borough level, where they have a similar trilateral, but on the borough side. So a lot of conversation on how successful that was, and just the different things that they're doing there. And it was a really great way to end the conference because it was on a very positive note. The first couple of days were a little bit more negative's not the right word, but a little more sour, just talking about the state of the state, and DOT and the legislator and ongoing impacts to municipalities. So it was really neat to hear from those representatives from those communities about how they've overcome, and really a message of it may be somebody else's responsibility or somebody else's obligation. Maybe somebody else's obligation, like the state's obligation, but there are people, so it's our responsibility. So just to share that, I really found that very enlightening, and it was a great overall networking event with some colleagues. As Clerk Diamond stated, the abatement ordinance is postponed currently for further legal review. Water treatment plant, as you guys may be aware, has been in a high turbidity event for, oh gosh, going on 4 weeks now. And there have been some disturbances in the water. We are still under high turbidity. We are looking at if there's some other issues that may be impacting it. But right now, everything at the plant is on manual operations, which means the operators are specifying how much coagulant is going in to the filters, and then that coagulant picks up the sediment and moves through the process and back out into the storage tank. So the issue with that is that the reason why I bring that up is we have a stream current detector, and that is normally what automatically pushes that coagulant in to the plant. And that's when we have these high turbidity events, it tends to over adjust and push more coagulant. And then the more coagulant you have, it's actually a dechlorinator. So then you're pushing more chlorine because the coagulant is dechlorinating. So we are learning every time we go through this experience, and our operator, Botero, was really quick on catching it because we are monitoring daily. And then when we go through these events, he's actually monitoring multiple times during the day to ensure that our turbidity levels and our chlorine levels continue to meet DEC standards. He's also been in discussion with DEC about what's going on, as well as we had our Alaska Rural Water Association circuit rider here, Kevin Schoeneman, that was great, and our remote supervisor, Todd Cook, and everything continues to operate, like I said, within levels and doing what they're supposed to be doing. Operator Botero did tell me that he appreciated hearing from the remote supervisor because he received input that Homer is experiencing a similar event, and I saw that Palmer is. And so I think, this is kind of going on statewide, that, we're in summer and there are a lot of things that are sediment that's being picked up in these reservoirs that comes down through the facility. We're also going through and flushing fire hydrants to ensure that we don't have sediment within the system from a recent air pocket that we had that we're aware of. And, we have a couple dead end lines. So we're going to go through and flush the system, and hopefully that helps continue to keep the pipes clear. But just knowing that the public has concerns and that we have noted those comments that we have received, and we continue to monitor that situation. So other updates, just some public works projects. They had to adjust the shop door. They're painting cranes on the dock. They're doing boat haul outs. They just completed removing all the insulation from the maintenance shop, which was a huge 3-week project and very itchy. And now we actually have a crew in town who's spray foaming, and that was one of our grants that we received for energy improvements for that building. So that is being taken place. We received the pickup broom, but we're still waiting hooks for that so that we can do street sweeping outside of when the DOT street sweeper comes, as long as our partners with DOT are okay with that. And that is a recommendation from our stormwater management plan, because that will hopefully help maintain those stormwater culverts, because we don't have gravel and particulates going into our stormwater system throughout the summer. The one sweep is maybe not enough for what we should be doing. We installed a pedestrian counter that we received from DOT. Unfortunately, it happened after Labor Day that we finally were able to get it up and working, and we're still working through the kinks of that. But that will monitor people that are walking by the harbor office there and count them so that we can utilize that data. And we'll do it now, and then we'll do it again, hopefully, as long as DOT lets us keep it at the beginning of next summer, and then be able to extrapolate some averages based on the year and season. But if you notice, they had vehicle counters that they put in the community a couple of weeks ago, and that was also as part of the bigger picture of trying to extrapolate the data of what we really have happening here on Main Street between vehicles, side-by-sides, bicyclers, and humans and pedestrians, as we talk with DOT about upcoming projects to improve sidewalks or provide alternative pedestrian pathways, or really just that ongoing concern that we're hearing throughout the community. And like I said, number one concern really that we heard in that comprehensive plan discussion. So, and it is in the CIP in several places. So,
when are they getting back to you with those numbers? I'm curious.
Excellent question to the chair. So the numbers I have access to, because they have a website where I can pull it up and see. I haven't checked to see if they've entered the new data, but I'll look. I could have actively monitored what it was happening, and same with the pedestrian counter. I can actively monitor the counts, and then it has.
So
Yeah.
you can see fast.
Yeah, it does. So it's
How do we see that?
I will get the information to you.
Thank you.
Because I was surprised when I learned about it. I was like, oh, look at this wealth of information. Yeah. Clerk Diamond is working with the BPSO Morgan to update our uniform minor offense table. We've had several changes over the last few years to that table, and that has to be updated with the court system. So we are working on that. Thank you, Clerk Diamond. Multi-purpose building generation improvement project. Generators here. We have a quote to install it. It's actually about 15,000 over what we have in grant funds. So there will be a ordinance introduction to the city council at their September 9th special meeting to appropriate funds from the public safety reserve for this project. And then recommended public hearing date on September 29th. 22nd? 29th. No, you're right, 22nd. September 22nd. And let's see, raw water transmission line RFP went out. It was extended. We had a few people who had questions and a few people who asked for extensions. So that was extended out to the 12th in order to have a little bit more time. We actually have a few firms who are coming in for site visits now that there has been an extension. And we had a few previously. So definitely some interest in that project, and that it will be great to hopefully see come about in the near future. You saw Britta here from AML. We are also working with AML for grant writing services. We signed up for them. They provide, they originally were saying up to 3 projects a year. And then when I received the quarterly report today, they have shifted their language to say a minimum of 3 grant applications a year. So I will hold them to that. And they are working on 2 rural tribal assistance proposals. One for the improvements to the historic boardwalk, and then a planning grant for the harbor waterfront boardwalk that would hopefully take that project through the environmental review and design and permitting to 35% design for that project, and then also provide some support for public conversation and discussion, as well as initial support for public easements for the infrastructure. So that's exciting that potentially there could be progress on that front. KPBSD pool update. This is, I'm not sure if this is the most recent update since this was the 25th, and this is like an ongoing conversation. The Seldovia Recreational Service Area Board met last night, and they had a discussion about the upcoming, or about the management of the pool. Clerk Diamond, and I should say actually Chair Diamond for the Seldovia Recreational Service Area, and myself met with Mayor Machicki a few weeks ago to talk about what that management transfer would look like. Currently, the city of Seldovia manages the Sea Otter Center and the Sea Otter Center staff. So if that is something that they're still wanting to hold on to that model, or if they're are interested in picking it up and having them be borough employees, similar to Nikiski, or like they're talking about with Ninilchik. That's ongoing conversation. The Borough Assembly did pass a resolution in support of the school district funding the Ninilchik and Seldovia pool for 1 more year, to have an equitable standing, while the larger discussions happening across the district and the borough about what the plan is for all of the pools next year, because the district has said this is the last year they'll fund pools. So the borough is, sorry, not the borough, the district, the KPBSD school district is having a board meeting on Monday, the 8th. There'll be a finance meeting beforehand where they'll be talking about potentially it looks like from their website, they'll be talking about cuts that they made before, reductions that they made, and the increase to the BSA from the override of the governor's veto, and potentially talking about, putting some services back into the budget, which is where the pools would fall under. And then the meeting at 6 p.m. So there was a call out from the Seldovia Recreational Service Area to please, if you have comments and input, please provide them. Written comments are great so that they can see them before the meeting and before the finance committee meeting, especially. But certainly, if you can get them in, or if you want to attend that meeting, that information is on that post, as well as on the Borough Assembly website to attend that evening. I believe, and maybe I'm announcing it prematurely, but I believe that there are students at the school who feel pretty passionately about this, and they're trying to organize and have a meeting call-in space in order to be able to advocate from the student level for this infrastructure. So good on them. Along with painting the cranes, we're looking at a quote to repair safety ladders on the dock. I will regret to inform you guys that the NERS infrastructure funding opportunity, which would have been, and was actually a part of the comprehensive plan, was to receive ownership of the properties around the water treatment plant in order to preserve and maintain those moving forward. Was in the comprehensive plan. I think it's still in the new comprehensive plan. I'll double check, but it's getting late in the evening. So that project unfortunately has been canceled. NOAA has canceled the infrastructure funding project. They're going to utilize those funds for existing projects right now. So those were the Trina Lake project and the water treatment plant property project. The Kachemak Heritage Land Trust did reach out to me. There's maybe some other ways to pursue the projects, and they're still of interest, of course, to the Kachemak Heritage Land Trust and to KB NER. So we'll see what comes of it in the future. And we had a survey and continuing to move forward with the improvements for the Main Street inlets. That's the one across from the Gateway Pavilion and the one on the corner by the Seldovia liquor store, as well as Vista and Frank Raby. We'll be looking at installing some culverts and updating the one inlet. We don't have funding for both construction projects. So both design projects and engineering, but only one Main Street project will be completed with this funding. We'll still have to get funding for the one by the Gateway Pavilion, but those will go through next summer. And Jackloff, you guys get this hot off the press. The council hasn't even heard yet because I received the information today that the final determination for the Jackloff uplands has been made, that the city of Seldovia can enter into a 55-year lease with DNR for the uplands. So we're working through those steps. We do have a call out to DOT and a few emails, and we've actually we were struggling with communication for the last year or two, but we have had a new door open and we're having some really great conversations over the last couple of weeks about the Main Street inlets, because that's a state road, and then also for their support in cleaning up the uplands. So we're hoping to hear back from them soon on whether they can provide that support as the council moves through the decision-making process for accepting that lease for that area. And I believe everything else we've gone through. So please, if you have any questions, let me know. I think I stated that we did submit a application for the wetlands and hydrology study, as well as we have received the CDBG. It's still in the environmental review for the fuel lube roof. And we did have one project end up in the FY26 congressional direct spending federal request through Murkowski's office, and that's an additional $482,000 in funding for the Jackloff Bay dock replacement project. So if the FY26 appropriation bill is awarded and appropriated, those funds would become available for that project. Any questions for me?
Any questions from the commissioners? All righty. Okay, we have some, I think we have time for comments from the public in just a little bit. So we'll just go through the agenda item then. J, which is informational items not requiring action. So September 7th is the last day to register to qualify to vote in the October 7th, 2025 municipal election. Absentee in-person voting begins on September 22nd, 2025 at the city office. Item number 2 is the Alaska DOT and Public Facilities is seeking input for the statewide long-term transportation plan. And it doesn't have a date by when. Is any ideas about what that is? And then
It did not have a date on there.
on the maybe it has it on the, sorry, it might have it in the body of the thing here.
And that one is one that Alaska Municipal League and DOT highly encourage communities to fill out, because it will help inform that plan moving forward. across the state of Alaska. So
I don't
if you have
see,
interest, please provide comment.
okay, I don't quickly see a date on there, but the Kenai Peninsula Economic Development District is hosting a housing virtual roundtable, and we had talked about that earlier. And then the Cook Inlet Regional Citizens Advisory Committee, CIRCAC, will hold a Board of Directors meeting at the Seldovia Conference Center on September 5th, 2025, starting at 9 p.m. and the public is invited.
AM.
Sorry, did I, 9 a.m.? Okay. And then here, opportunity for the public for comments.
I'm sure that you're well aware of this situation, but the Arts Council has this amphitheater that they got. You're very well aware of this, and you've been very graciously allowing us to store part of it in the city. However, we are under quite a bit of duress about moving the dock and very worried about it. And there was quite a bit of worry about it at the meeting last night. And I'm just wondering if there's any possibility that we could just keep it where it's at.
Thank you through the chair. Yes, let's talk offline. I have had that conversation with the harbor master. There are several reasons why it needs to be stored elsewhere for the winter, but we can discuss those further.
We need some help.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's talk about it.
Okay, any other comments from the public? I don't think we have anybody online otherwise. Okay. And then any comments from the commissioners?
Busy, huh?
Commissioner Kroll? Commissioner Ryan?
Well, it's been interesting seeing this comprehensive plan was way more comprehensive than I was expecting. So it'll take some more time to delve into that, but I'm glad to participate.
Thank you. And then our next meeting will be October 1st. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion for that. Sherman?
Commissioner, thank you, Commissioner Forsberg. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. It is 8:12 p.m.